I'm Claire Davis with Mental Health Chats, and I'm here again with Benny. Benny's back. Hi, Benny. How are you going?
Hey, Claire. I'm well. How are you going?
I'm really well, thank you. And thank you for joining us, because we are here to sum up the topic on menopause. And some of you might be thinking, well, why is Benny here? Because Benny wouldn't be experiencing it. But well, there is something called male menopause that I'm doing a lot more research on. So I'm going to look into that and do a series on male menopause. But what we're talking about is female menopause at the moment. But Benny, the reason why I wanted Benny here today to sum up, as he always does, is because menopause actually affects everyone. If there is a woman going through menopause, it's going to affect the men in her life, it's going to affect her family, it's going to affect her in the workplace. And we saw that in the 3 chats with Lauren, Catherine, and Emma. So Benny, you've got a wife who's at the age of menopause. The age of menopause, I'm just going to look at stats a lot today because there's a lot of stats. The average age in the UK is 51, and women can get to the menopause between the ages of 45 and 55, but 1 in 100 women actually reach menopause before the age of 40. And Lauren mentioned that because she reached menopause at 38. So, Benny, how old's Sharon, your wife?
She's just under 50.
Yeah.
She's born in 73, and so she's just under 50, approaching 50.
Yeah.
So she's definitely in that 35 to 55-year-old window where the majority of menopause occurs, and so it's relevant to us. And I hadn't really thought about it a huge amount, I must admit, Claire, before this topic came up, and it's been quite interesting. And being a male and not being across the whole topic, I'm interested in what your experience has been. And how it's impacted you. Like I know that with Sharon, things have been a bit different, and but I'm not exactly sure what's going on. And I think that was one of the main messages that came out of the 3 speakers, particularly perhaps Claire. Just talking about being aware of what's going on. So that you're in a position to deal with the changes. I did note down just a few quotes just before we throw to you, Claire.
Yes.
Hormones can create chaos in women's lives, and I'd be really interested to hear of your experience.
Yeah, well, thanks for that, Benny. I'm going to give you a few statistics, and this was statistics from 2017, and I'll put the link to these in. And what it found was that almost half, that's 46% of women, experience hot flushes, 37% experience night sweats, and 37% also experience low levels of energy. So that goes with some statistics from 2019, which I found interesting, about menopause in the workplace, where 63% of menopausal women say their working life has been negatively affected by their symptoms. And what that also highlighted was 34% in the workplace developed depression and anxiety, while 29% had significant loss of confidence at work. Now, Lauren mentioned that in great detail, and that's why Lauren is so passionate about going into the workplace and helping women, but also helping women's partners and their families to really understand. And Lauren told me a story once about she had a CEO come to one of her talks, a male, and she said, I'm really interested as to why you're here. And he said, I've got to understand my wife. I don't know what's going on. And I think what often happens is we don't know what's going on. And, some more statistics are that over half of women, 51%, say that menopause has affected their sex lives. Now, that's a big thing in a relationship. And, we've got to understand this in our relationships. Why are people suddenly not wanting to, why doesn't she want to have sex with me? Well, maybe it's because menopause is affecting their sex life. So, Benny, you did ask the question about my experience. Now, I had a very, very turbulent time going through puberty and then in my 20s with my hormones. And what's been interesting is that I actually had, when I was 48, so I'm 53, some of you who don't know, I've got a lot of friends who watch this, so you know my age. I'm 53, and when I was 48, I went through quite a low period for about 3 months. And I had no idea what was going on. I was just so low. So one of my closest friends who's a GP said, get a check for iron, get a full MOT, she called it. So over here at MOT is what you get done on your car. And she said, get your hormones checked. So I got them checked, and I went to the doctor not thinking anything about menopause. I was 48, I should have realized. And she basically said to me, you're post. And I said, what are you talking about? And she said, you're post-menopause. I said, but I haven't experienced anything. I don't know what you're talking about. And then I've reflected on the 3 talks that we've had, and I've reflected on my time before that. And I do remember I did have a couple of hot flushes at night, you know, night sweats, but only a couple. But I know that I had a personal trainer at the time, and when I was going to him, there were times where I was just sweating so much more than usual. But I just thought, wow, I've done a great workout. But after Emma's talk, I really reflected on my diet. And what I found was, and it sounds so logical, my diet has changed completely since my mid-20s. If anyone knew me in my mid-20s, I did have a problem with weight. But my diet's changed completely because I realized there were certain foods that didn't make me feel good and bloated me. So I've cut a lot of these foods out, and I eat a lot of the foods that Emma talked about. But I didn't realize I was having my menopause. So I eat a lot of greens, the kales, the broccolis, all those she talked about. Now the estrogen I found interesting because after my 4th child, my friend who's a GP said, get a Mirena because I had really heavy periods. So get a Mirena because it will stop your periods. So Mirenas, and one of our, and I'll put the link in, one of our articles mentions getting more estrogen in your body. And the Mirena puts estrogen in the body. So I've asked quite a few of my friends, we've all sort of talked about what's helped us with menopause. And the few who have had Mirenas have found that the menopause hasn't affected them as much. So, but I have had one friend who said, well, one of my friends has a Mirena and her menopause has been dreadful. So who knows? It's not an exact science, any of it. However, what I'm saying is I've sort of reflected back and thought, well, my mother had really bad menopause. I do remember it. But for me, it wasn't that bad. And is it because of my diet, that I was exercising, that I had a Mirena as well? I don't know. I can't relive that time without those things to actually do the research on it. But it's really interesting, isn't it, Peter?
Yeah. I think I think you hit the nail on the head there, Claire. It's a combination of things. It's like a lot of, the link between menopause and mental health issues. It was interesting to hear the 3 speakers, and Emma's one about, with other mental health, when we've talked about other mental health issues, we always talk about the importance of sharing and being able to speak with someone who's close to you and all that sort of stuff. And it was interesting to get the nutrition angle. Just by chance, I noticed that Sharon actually eats all those things. I don't know whether she's doing that deliberately, but she's definitely eating a lot of broccoli, kale, Brussels sprouts, big on the Brussels sprouts. And yeah, look, one thing that popped up that's common across the other mental health topics is, alcohol. Emma made the point that it's not great for menopause. And so just listening to your experience about you changing the diet, it sort of coincided, you change the diet coincided with, that with menopause happening in your life. And it sounds like it did, it offset the effects of menopause on you. And I think that's a great story. You've got to combine all those other things. Be aware, have awareness, know what's going on and expect the changes in your life. Expect to be a bit cranky. It's not just all about hot flushes. I think was the point that Lauren made at the start. There are a whole lot of other things that happen when you start getting that hormonal turmoil in your life. So if you're aware of it, you can talk to other people about it. One of the speakers, I'm not sure who it was, said to speak to someone who's experienced it themselves, if you can. Someone who really knows what they're talking about. And all the time we talk about speaking with professionals in the mental health area, and likewise with menopause in that medical area. So it's a really interesting topic. I hadn't considered the workplace thing and the impact that it has on so many people at work. They've had to change their careers when they don't know what's happening. You know, it can just completely change the direction of people's lives. So it's such an important topic, Claire.
It is. And I think something else that we need to take away from this is, we know it's from 45 to 55. Why aren't we preparing? It's such a taboo topic. People don't talk about the M word. It's like, why? Why not? It's just natural.
Yeah.
So let's open
another
up
one of those stigma things.
Stigma. Let's open up those conversations. It's not to be ashamed of, and not just opening them up. Women out there, don't just open it up with other women. Talk to your partners about it. Talk to your families about it. It's so important.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah,
I don't think a huge amount of that happens, and I think that it needs to. Like just from listening to the three speakers and listening to you, it's sort of you know, a lot of things are sort of coming together for me. So I'd encourage people to speak with their partners about it. It's really important.
Lovely. Well, thank you, Benny. Our next topic is a very, very sensitive topic. And it's a topic that I've sort of tossed up whether or not to include. But I did have a very good friend of mine who was here in the UK, who's moved to Canberra, who approached me and said, I would like to talk about my experience. She's not going to be our first speaker, so watch out for her. She's an amazing woman, Liz Walton. She'll be in the series. So our first speaker is a lady called Nina Malone, and she will be opening up the topic on sexual assault. So I look forward to seeing you all on the next topic, and thank you very much, Benny, for joining us. It's been really lovely to open up the conversation of menopause with you. Thanks a lot. Take care.
Thanks.
Okay,
Bye-bye.
bye.